Welcome to the Solid Verbal.
The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildebrandt. His name is Dan Rubenstein. Together, we are the Solid Verbal Podcast. Thank you for listening. You can find us at itunes.com/solidverbal. We're also on Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat. And, of course, on iTunes at itunes.com/solidverbal. Dan Rubenstein.
Hey.
What up, brother?
It was an eventful, I guess, Tuesday.
What is new in your life, Dan?
Well, I imagine most people know where this is going, but Frank Tavani stepped down as Lafayette's head coach.
Yeah.
And long time face of that program. And if nothing else, you know that the Rubensteins are a Lafayette family.
That's right.
We are.
Yeah.
Is it a crimson? I don't know what the exact color shade is. I apologize because we're about results. The Rubenstein family with
more of a maroon, I'd say.
More of a maroon. But yes, I think he was there for 17 years, and that succulent, dripping, and moist drum and fife. It's just not the same without old Frank. So,
it wears you down after a while, that succulent drum and fife, but...
It's true. It's true. And he's a native of Lebanon, PA, which I know you know very well.
Yep.
Do you?
Actually? I do, yeah, I do.
Where is Lebanon?
Central PA, South Central PA.
South Central PA. Now, I'm seeing a headline here from the Allentown Morning Call.
There you go.
Frank Tavani steps down. Also, we should note, just as a footnote, Mark Helfrich was fired from the University of Oregon.
Mark Helfrich was fired. Let's jump into this, shall we?
Okay.
We have breaking news.
Boop, 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 boop.
Why are you so sad sounding?
Because I really wanted it to work, Ty.
It was never going to work. You knew that.
Well, in 2014, it really felt like it was working, Ty. I don't have the pessimism in hindsight that you do, but I was at my happiest watching Oregon beat Florida State. And man, has it been a come down from that moment in the Rose Bowl. So Mark Helfrich is out. Oregon decided to call it a going in a new direction type thing. And it sort of broke last night on the later side around 9 or 10. And after a 4-8 season and a loss in the Civil War, that got kind of ugly in the fourth quarter and some close calls along the way that could have gone Oregon's way to the tune of them maybe going like 7-5, 8-4, nothing crazy good. Helfrich is out. And the big word was trajectory, which I think is a pretty fair word to use given where Oregon was and was not going on either side of the ball with recent hires, with recent non-hires, and it was the right move with unfortunate circumstances that I don't think any Oregon fan actually wanted to happen or have the reasons happen for it to happen.
You are, as you alluded here before we hit record, the most connected third-hand Oregon alum in all of sports media. What is the craziest rumor you've heard so far?
Well, Chip Kelly seems crazy to me. It's been around for a while now. The smoke of Chip Kelly not happy in San Francisco, wants to get back to Oregon, and has had clandestine meetings.
Clandestine.
I don't think that's the craziest thing because of his history. Some people have suggested, Greg Schiano apparently is a real option, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And Urban Meyer, that's not an actual rumor I've really heard, but I don't know if there's one. It's college football. The Lane Kiffin thing to me seems crazy, but people keep saying it over and over again, and that could be agent smoke. I don't know.
Okay.
To me, that is the craziest direction that Oregon could go in within the realm of possibility.
All right, so here are the early names here. We don't have much to really report on this other than to get your temperature on the matter, but some of the early names are PJ Fleck from Western Michigan, who has mentioned time and time again, makes plenty of sense, but also Brian Harsin. You mentioned Schiano. Jim McElwain was an interesting name that was thrown about.
Yeah, he just denied it, I believe. He did some interviews and denied that he said it was just sort of recruiting stuff behind it, not actual substance. He has not talked to Oregon. Who knows? I don't know.
Dana Holgerson, another name, Scott Frost. I'm sure there are names that I am leaving out, but Oregon's a good job. Oregon's got, obviously, the backing of Nike. It's been an energized, forward-thinking program now for a better part of the last decade. And I hope you guys find somebody interesting. I know there were some funny rumors out there about a fake flight between South Bend and Eugene, Oregon. So if you end up with Brian Kelly, that'd be poetic justice.
Somebody created the fake flight plan that involved the Notre Dame plane or something, a plane with the tail number something ND.
They are taking him to Eugene.
Well, they were either taking him to, like, Jack Swarbrick was forcing him onto a plane, or Brian Kelly commandeered the plane to go to Eugene.
Oh my God, Air Force One all over again.
Yeah, so the big picture thing is Mark Helfrich, it just didn't work in Eugene. He didn't put enough of his own stamp on the program like Chip Kelly did when he took over in 2009. You know, Chip Kelly brought the sort of tempo spread and zone read stuff to Eugene, Oregon in earnest in 2007. But when he took over as head coach, he overhauled the culture and the way it operated day to day. It seemed the entire time that Mark Helfrich was there that he was just sort of saying, yeah, let's just keep doing what we've been doing. And it's just a different weird-looking guy at the helm. He's not weird-looking. I don't know why I said that. But ultimately, head coaches succeed when the program is run in their own image that they can control and sort of operate in a successful way without doing it somebody else's way. And it only worked for so long, doing the win the day, doing the tempo. It just, everything seemed the same.
Well,
and it didn't work.
As far as his image goes, Dan, I know I made this joke before, and it was probably mean and cruel and baseless, but he seemed like the kind of guy who'd enjoy driving around a minivan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a certain element to that. A lot of people feel he's too nice.
Very milquetoast, you know?
A big time, consistently 8, 9, 10, 11 win college football coach. And to be fair, Ty, and I was talking about this with, once again, our pal Ryan Nanny earlier, how many coaches with other good coaches, plural, 2, 3 good coaches in their division or conference have consistently won 9.5 to 10.3 games a season?
Not many.
So it's Urban Meyer, it's Nick Saban, it's Gary Patterson, Bob Stoops, maybe Les Miles for a good chunk of a stretch before he was let go. Oregon was able to do that without the coaching talent in the Pac-12 North, or even the Pac-12 as a whole. And to no fault of their own, they took advantage. But that may have inflated to a certain degree the standard to which Oregon thinks about itself. And it's totally fair. It's totally real, and it's understandable. But I think things are going to be sort of adjusted shortly.
All right. Well, we'll see. Mark Helfrich is out at Oregon. Some other news in and around the world of college football. Surprise, surprise. Malik Zaire, he will transfer, according to our good friend Pete Sampson over at Irish Illustrated. Some preliminary destinations that Pete mentioned were Florida, Pitt, Wisconsin, and Michigan State, although a report from ESPN did indicate that Notre Dame's going to block any transfer requests to teams that are on its 2017 schedule, with the exception of North Carolina. So translation, that means Michigan State is probably off the list. My favorite thing that I saw in relation to this actually came from you and came from somewhere on Twitter. But somebody suggested that if he really wants to go to Michigan State, he should transfer elsewhere and then to Michigan State.
Yeah, transfer laundering, like money laundering. You're passing money through multiple banks, it cleans it up, and all of a sudden you just have numbers. And so he's barred from going to Michigan State, so just go to Pitt, just go to Eastern Michigan, just go somewhere else and be like, I changed my mind, now I'm going to Michigan State. Here's my question for you, Ty. Not that we're going to spend all that much time on Malik Zaire. Given his strengths and weaknesses, what type of program fits him best? What type of offense?
I'm not sure any of the ones on this list do.
Okay.
And that was kind of my initial takeaway. Florida, Pitt, Wisconsin, even if he somehow ends up at Michigan State, Malik Zaire is a true dual threat kind of guy. And not to say that some of those places don't have offensive wizardry that could somehow incorporate dual threat quarterbacks. We just haven't seen it. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't know if this is a hard and fast list.
What else do you want to talk about before we get into what could be a very meaningless championship weekend?
Well, we do have conference championship weekend, Dan. There are a bunch of big games.
Dan, Time. Help. I need picks of the week.
So we got to set the table here.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to discuss the very important rankings?
We're going to talk about the very important penultimate rankings here. We're also going to talk about some goofball scenarios. Goofball scenarios, because chaos quasi ensues if one team loses. The committee is going to have to choose between head-to-head results and a conference championship and which it values more, which could be a lot of fun. That could make for interesting fodder on the verbal on Sunday. We also could have a total chaos scenario where Clemson, Washington, Oklahoma all lose, and the possibility of 3 Big Ten teams in the playoffs somehow in a weird way exists, which would piss off the Big 12 and the Pac-12 and a bunch of teams on the outside looking in. Here is the way that this shakes out, at least as of the time of recording on Wednesday evening. 1 and 2 are Alabama and, of course, Ohio State. By all accounts, barring some last-second change of heart or a meteor hitting planet Earth, it would appear as if it's going to be Alabama and Ohio State. Those 2 teams are already in. Beyond that, though, that's where we've got some wiggle room. We've got Clemson in there. We've got Washington in there at 3 and 4. I think for any of the teams that behind them, obviously, you need some help in front of you. You need a Clemson loss to Virginia Tech. You need a Washington loss to Colorado. We'll get into those games here momentarily. The one that really got people going, though, was putting Michigan at 5 in front of number 6, Wisconsin, in front of number 7, Penn State, in front of number 8, Colorado, and in front of number now 9, Oklahoma. I don't have a problem with this, Dan. We talked about it on Sunday, that Michigan obviously has a pretty strong case. Being so, it beat head-to-head Wisconsin, Penn State, and Colorado. But this is now going to be a thing. We're now going to be in this position where if somebody loses in front of them, we're going to have to debate the merits of regular season head-to-head merits versus, this team won a conference championship over you, Michigan. That's where we're headed with this.
My dream scenario is Alabama loses the SEC championship game, Clemson loses the ACC championship game, Washington loses the Pac-12 championship game, and they somehow all get into the playoff with Michigan, and we have no conference champions.
It could happen.
Scenario.
It could happen.
And Penn State, Wisconsin is 9-7, and nobody wants to see them play against one of the other teams in the playoff conversation.
Chaos scenarios have become a bit of a cottage industry nowadays. Everyone's looking for something to root for if your team's already out of it. And this is what we root for. I'm going full on Daenerys Targaryen. Let's break the wheel and let's figure out a way to expand this thing to 8 teams.
Right.
I know you might not be in favor of it, but I feel like at some point it's going to head there anyway. So what will be done eventually, let's just do it immediately. That said, I don't know how close to that we are. However, if, again, we're pitted between head-to-head and conference championships, or if we're in a situation where we get 3 teams from one conference in the playoff, I think that's going to kick up some dust, and I think that could expedite the process a bit.
So obviously, you and I root for teams that are 4-8 at the moment, and it probably won't change anytime soon.
Nope.
So what I am rooting for at this point, it depends on what the chaos actually is. A lot of people just like rooting for chaos, which doesn't always feel super fun. But what I'm rooting for is the highest number of quality quarterbacks in the playoff. Because if anybody has a chance of beating Alabama or Ohio State or any of these teams, quality quarterback play feels like it's important. Now, do we have it with Alabama? Yes. Do we have it with Clemson? Yes. Do we have it with Washington? Yes. Do we have it with Penn State? I would say yes. Colorado, mostly. Oklahoma, most definitely. Those are the only 9 teams I could feel like chaos could sort of get in. And Wisconsin, we do not. I'm not crazy about Wilton Speight. An injured Wilton Speight, especially, and what he's done against the better teams on the schedule has been so average. And JT Barrett is now, what is he? He's on a streak of not completing 50% of his passes. He has not been good this year, especially later on in the season. So what I'm rooting for is as close to 4 quality or very good quarterbacks as we can get. That's what I want.
On a very personal level, being so I am a Penn State grad, I'm rooting for Penn State to somehow, some way find their way into the playoff. Not saying they'd make much noise if they got there and had to play Alabama. As a podcaster, I'm rooting for every team to win. I'm rooting for all of the top teams to win, I should say. I'm rooting for Clemson to win. I'm rooting for Washington to win because I honestly believe that Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Washington represent the best 4 teams in the country. I think they have it right now, barring upsets. I'd be fine with seeing those matchups.
Yeah, they give us 3 good quarterbacks out of 4. I'd be totally fine with it existing as it is right now.
Before we get to some of your championship action, let's pay the bills.
Okay.
As you know, Mr. Rubenstein, as a food connoisseur, not all ingredients are created equally. Fresh, high-quality stuff tastes better. Not only that, it's better for you. So it's important to know where your food's coming from. And that's why I think it's worth mentioning the experience that you and I have both had with Blue Apron.
Absolutely.
You know, they send you fresh vegetables. They send you everything you need to know in order to cook a wonderful feast on your own stove in your own oven at home. The ingredients are top-notch. The food tastes great. I impressed the Solid Wife by doing this.
Nice.
Which made it all the more worthwhile. Blue Apron, if you haven't heard of Blue Apron, they've been on the show before, but one of the things that they like to highlight is that they've got partnerships with 150 local farms, fisheries, ranchers all across the United States, which means that the seafood is sourced sustainably under standards developed in partnership with the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch. They've got humanely raised beef, free-range chicken, naturally raised pork. Regenerative farm practices are used for produce. They can deliver to 99% of the continental United States. And because they ship you exact amounts for what you need, they are reducing food waste in the process. They also believe that cooking together builds stronger family bonds, which I agree with. Mm-hmm. Less than $10 a meal, Blue Apron's going to deliver seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. They know that when you cook incredible ingredients, you make incredible meals. So they set the highest quality standards for their community of artisanal suppliers, family-run farms, and ranchers. Right now, all you got to do, check out this week's menu. Get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/solid.
I think you did a better job reading that than Rob Mullins did reading his statement terminating Mark Helfrich.
Thank you, Dan.
Consolation.
No problem. I'm sure Rob Mullins didn't talk about the brown butter and chestnut gnocchi with Brussels sprouts and pea shoot salad that you can get from Blue Apron.
Gnocchi.
No, it's gnocchi. I'm Italian, Dan. It's gnocchi.
Gnocchi?
Gnocchi.
Gnocchi.
Okay. Also, Thai green coconut curry with sweet potato and jasmine rice.
All right.
Also available. BlueApron.com/solid. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. Blue Apron is a better way to cook. Go to BlueApron.com/solid. Moving on. We've got a de facto Big 12 championship game. It's not a real one. They don't start that till next year. Here's what's maddening about that. By the way, the game is at 12:30. They call it the Bedlam game. It's on Fox.
Yep.
Oklahoma is at home. They're an 11-point favorite over hated in-state rival Oklahoma State. The conference championship thing in the Big 12 is pretty crazy. They don't have one yet. They will next year. They don't have divisions, which means that next year when they put this thing into effect, the championship game is going to be a battle between number 1 in the standings and number 2 in the standings, which is going to be a guaranteed rematch in the Big 12. They've already got a round-robin format, so everyone plays everyone. And in the case of this season, if it were in effect, and even last season, if it were in effect back then, it would essentially be a rematch of this game. So not only would they play last week of the season, there'd be a week break, and then they'd play again immediately thereafter. That would be your Big 12 championship game, Dan.
Yeah, I like how the Big 12 has enacted a championship game immediately following the year with the least interesting and meaningful championship games as it relates to playoff chances and postseason chances. Now, it's great that the Big Ten, 2 great stories. Wisconsin overcoming that schedule with that amazing defense. Penn State developing Trace McSorley in his first year. 2 new coordinators. James Franklin getting off the hot seat. All that. But if neither one of those teams wins the Big Ten and goes to the playoff, it's a hell of an exhibition.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to win your conference. It's just weird that that's closure on the season, not a jumping off point. And it will feel very strange next year. We're talking about the Big 12. If Bedlam happens and you're like, well, who's really better though? The team that just won. Are they though? Yes, they just won. But what if we played again next week? I don't see why we would. Let's do it. I can't really see the logic. Well, too late. It's on the docket.
Yep.
So let's talk about this year's game.
Let's talk about this year's game. By the way, I believe the conference voted in favor of divisions to kind of get away from this type of setup, or potentially get away from this setup. But alas, they will not have divisions, and it's a weird setup indeed. Okay, this year's game. How sold are you on Oklahoma State?
Fairly sold on Oklahoma State. It's both of these teams have, I would say, below average defenses with what we saw from Oklahoma, West Virginia. They're both coming off of bye weeks. The turnover margin thing is a slight edge to Oklahoma State. The red zone defense is something Oklahoma has in edging out Oklahoma State. I think I'm a believer in taking the points in this game. Okay. Oklahoma has maybe the best offense in the country.
I agree. I agree with that.
Oklahoma State is a little bit more explosive thanks to the antics of Junkyard Jim Washington. They struggled downfield a bit, though, against TCU. So of late, there are some questions. I'm going to take the points. I believe it's going to be a shootout. I don't think either defense is good enough with how explosive these offenses and these quarterbacks are. I don't expect either one of these past defenses to succeed a ton, so I'm taking the points.
Did you say shootout? I thought I heard shootout, Dan.
I have 41-34, Ty.
Back to what I said before. I've not been sold on Oklahoma State all year, and I think with this game being in Norman, that's why my first read was to go with the Sooners. But
right,
you look at the numbers here, you dig in a little bit more, and you're totally right to say that Oklahoma might have the best offense in the country. But I'm just not so sure. They are. I'm just not so sure it's as cut and dry as that, which is why I'm going to go against my gut. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State. I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to take the points. Here's why. First off, it's a rivalry game. You throw out the records. Secondly, I think you're right. I think it's less a story about offense. I think it's more a story about below average defense.
Right.
On paper, Oklahoma should be able to run on Oklahoma State. We already know they can run it if they want to, but my curiosity really is whether Oklahoma State can run it on Oklahoma. Can they get Justice Hill going? Because if they can, I think that changes the complexion of the game.
They've run the ball so much better of late.
Absolutely. So if they can get him going, if they're not totally reliant on Mason Rudolph, who's a really good quarterback in his own right, but if he gets a little bit of help and a little bit of balance elsewhere offensively, I think that helps them present a more balanced attack here.
Okay.
And certainly gives them a better chance at keeping this one close, maybe even winning the game outright. I think it's a big game for him. I think it's a big game for Junkyard Jim. Jalen McCleskey, who we should also mention, has had a really big year. I do think it's a shootout. I do think it's close. I think it's even closer than, what'd you say, 41-34?
Yeah, 41-34, 7-point game.
I think it's even closer, 42-40 in favor of Oklahoma. I think this is a great game.
Yeah, this game's generally pretty fun. And if you'll remember, I don't think I know I posted the Wisconsin-Iowa nature film that I did years ago, put on the Solid Verbal YouTube channel. This was the North Korean game I did. Bedlam.
Oh, that's right.
North Korean broadcast of Bedlam. So look up North Korean broadcast of Oklahoma State. I spent way too much time on that, but I'm pretty happy with how it came out.
That was some of your finest work there. And the best part was, the best part of all of it, I believe, were some of the comments we got where people thought it was real.
And also they said, this is not real Korean, which it sort of is. It's Google Translate Korean.
Right. I love the internet. God bless the internet. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Fake.
Let's go to the SEC Championship, Dan.
Okay.
This is a neutral site game. It's played in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. It's at 4 p.m. on Saturday. It's on CBS. Of course it's on CBS. And we've got the Alabama Crimson Tide, a 24-point favorite against the Florida Gators, Dan. Wow.
Yeah.
So humor me for a second here. Let's backtrack. Win or lose, fair to assume that Bama's in the playoff, yes?
Yes, it is fair.
If that is the case, if this game is merely a formality, could we be entering into a scenario where Alabama goes into zombie autopilot look-ahead mode in this game and maybe doesn't cover the point spread?
I have Florida covering.
Really?
I have, maybe it's a backdoor cover. I don't know what it is. You can play the sound if you'd like. I think I know what it is. I don't know if you have a sound for this. Do you have a crock-potting sound? Can I just make... That's just the slow braising bubbling of this game. Yeah, I think Alabama, I have it 31-13. So Alabama wins by, is that 18 points? Does my math deceive me? No, sure. 18 points. So yeah, I have Alabama winning by that margin. I think it's comfortable. I don't think it will ever be in doubt, but I don't think Alabama is going to run away with this game because Florida, despite its issues, can still play a good chunk of defense. So I'm going to say 31-13.
Yeah, wow. I'm kind of second guessing here.
Alabama doesn't need style points in this game.
They really don't. I've been in the Bama minus anything camp all year. Mm-hmm. Situationally, though, this game is truly a formality.
Right.
They don't need to show up and do much of anything here. They could probably lose by 50 and still get in the playoff. Well, a couple things that jump out at me, though.
Yeah.
Bama has not allowed a touchdown the entire month of November.
That's pretty good.
It's real good. I saw Danny Cannell, the wise ESPN greens here.
The turtlenecked one.
Yeah, he poo-pooed this on Twitter. He said, "Wow, they've played some really bad passing offenses," and he's not wrong. But Wisconsin played some bad passing offenses. So did Ohio State. Both of them allowed 5 touchdowns. When you got a talented defense, it's not hard to hold down a bad offense. But damn if it's not next to impossible to be this dominant.
We're playing against that much talent. The fact that there hasn't been a broken play and a talented player hasn't gotten loose for like a random 47-yard touchdown.
Totally. It's hard.
Incredibly impressive.
It's hard. It takes incredible discipline, fundamentals, you name it. I just don't know how Florida scores any points in this game. And I guess if they're going to do it, it needs to be with defense and special teams. I saw Edward Ashoff from ESPN. He wrote a nice piece on how they need to get Jordan Scarlett going. And sure, he's the one weapon that Florida has, but Bama is allowing 2.2 yards per carry. It's not like there's any kind of matchup advantage here.
It's filthy
for Florida. I want to subscribe to my own theory that there is some sort of look ahead, let down, this game doesn't matter potential. But Bama's just been so good, and Florida's offense has just been so bad. I'm going to say Alabama wins this game 38-9.
That's a lot of points for that Florida defense to give up.
I know.
They have such good... I mean, their secondary is still so good.
But if they go 3 and out every drive against this...
Yeah, you're not wrong.
This defense, eventually that defense is going to wear down too.
Yep.
All right, ACC championship now at Camping World Stadium, Dan. Everybody remembers their first trip to Camping World Stadium in Orlando.
Yes, of course.
8 p.m. ABC. Clemson's a 10-point favorite against the Virginia Tech Hokies, Dan. I said on Sunday, and got some interesting feedback. I said on Sunday that I was most confident in the underdog here. And someone said to us, well, Clemson just played their best game of the year. All you could talk about is how they might lose to Virginia Tech.
Right.
Listen, there's only so much you can say about a 56-7 lopsided affair against South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And secondly, we want the downloads for this show.
Want those clicks.
We want the downloads, baby. So look, I think it's an undeniable truth that Clemson's got more talent here. Yes?
Okay. Yes.
If everyone wins out, it's Clemson against Ohio State. And if it is Clemson against Ohio State, I still think I'm picking Clemson. I like Clemson a lot. The red flag here, though, at least as it relates to this point spread, I've yet to see the next level thrashing against a top 40 team by Clemson. This is kind of what I've been talking about all year, that next gear, right? We've seen it in spots against the lesser teams on the schedule. But outside of maybe 2 quarters in the Louisville game where it seemed like they found it, they beat Louisville by 6. They beat Auburn by 6. NC State by 7. Florida State by 3. They lost at home to Pitt.
Don't skip the Troy Trojans.
Well, okay, that's another one. A 6-point win against Troy. The 6 best teams, arguably, on the schedule have all been within 1 score. Mm-hmm. I don't mean to undermine the wins. I'm just saying that Clemson hasn't covered 10 against the best teams on its schedule, why would this game be any different?
That's true. And maybe our expectations are a little bit high, and maybe, it's Alabama just throwing everything off. Just the scale is just totally screwed, the curve. But yes, I would assume from a top 4 team, a little bit of separation from the better teams. Not necessarily the best teams, but from the better teams or even the average teams.
Sure.
In this game specifically, Virginia Tech does a great, underlined, bold, italicized, capitalized, whatever, job of preventing big plays, which I think is important, because if there's something you want to do in this game, is you want Deshaun Watson to have to throw the ball and convert as many first downs as possible, because he has been a turnover machine. Before this nice little run recently against not such good competition, he has turned the ball over a ton, and Clemson has not been turning other teams, over as much as they'd, I'm sure, like to be doing. So if they can force the number of plays to go up, because Clemson has as talented a receiving core as any team in the country. They are deep, they're talented, they're scary, they're ridiculous. That to me is the key. The Virginia Tech defense has gotten better this season, has taken a step up with the continuity of Bud Foster. They're talented. I like the secondary. I'm a little bit worried about Virginia Tech themselves turning the ball over. I'm going to take the points on account of the Virginia Tech defense and your own mentioning of Clemson unable to separate themselves against the best teams on their schedule. I still have the Tigers winning 27-21.
27-21.
Yes.
I have the exact same score, Dan.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech's defense is good enough to keep this one relatively close. Clemson has not run the ball well all season, and this is a tough defense to pass on, too. So I think this is a test for Clemson. The reason that they win this game, though, is because they're going to do what they did last year, and they're going to let Deshaun Watson win it with his legs. Yeah. Last year, I looked this up, 42% of Deshaun Watson's rushing attempts came in the final 4 games of Clemson's season last year. There are plenty of points throughout the season where he's done nothing but stay in the pocket, particularly in games where he hasn't had to do much in order for Clemson to win. He stayed nestled nice and warm in that pocket. But in a big game like this where they need to win to get into the playoff, I think we're going to see Deshaun Watson unleashed.
So why don't you feel good about Clemson big then?
Well,
Deshaun Watson unleashed is perhaps the scariest single offensive weapon in college football at his peak with what he did last year against Alabama.
I don't like Clemson big because I still think Virginia Tech's defense is good enough to keep it relatively close. And also because we've seen now, as I said before, 6 games. 6 of the better teams that Clemson has played, they have not established that separation. What have I seen since then that would lead me to believe otherwise? I think they're good enough to win. I think they will win here, but I'm just not seeing that separation elsewhere. So if they do it, it's a late front door cover. The other thing I do want to add here on the Tech side, Gerard Evans or Trayvon McMillan's got to get something going on the ground. If they want to keep this one close, they got to get something going on the ground so they can freeze a few linebackers and safeties and hit a couple deep throws off play action. I think that's your plan if you want to try and win this game. I'm with you, though. Clemson wins 27-21. I like Tech to keep it close. I think it's a good game. I think they cover. But Clemson wins. Clemson's in. If Clemson loses, are they out?
I guess it depends how they lose. If they look good in a loss, so what is that, a win-loss?
Yeah.
I could see them hanging around. Let's see. So a Clemson team, who would they be compared against? They'd be compared against a Big Ten champion, either Wisconsin or Penn State, Michigan, 2-loss, a potential Pac-12 champion that has 2 losses in Colorado or Washington, who would not be the champion. I would assume at that point Colorado would be in over Washington. Michigan has obviously impressive wins, Penn State, Colorado.
See, it sort of backs the committee into a corner because if in fact they don't win their conference championship, it then makes it very difficult to put them in the playoff if you're also going to put a Big Ten champion in over Michigan. It's almost better to be consistent in a case like that and just go Clemson and Michigan.
Yeah. Don't you like how... So it feels like the committee always sort of backfills and makes sure that their rankings cover for all sorts of fun scenarios. So like if Clemson loses, you can still say, oh, well, they have Auburn, Louisville, and Florida State all conveniently in the top 15. They have that chip is still there. If Michigan is able to get in, they have Colorado in the top 10. They have Penn State in the top 10. They have Wisconsin in the top 10, all deservedly so. But there's the chip. They just set everything up really nicely. There's a case that you could put USC ahead of Colorado, I guess, because they're head-to-head and how well they've been playing. But it always feels like who else slid in? Pitt slid in. So, Clemson they lost to this ranked team. And Pitt totally deserves to be ranked. But the timing is such, you're like, look at that. Would you look at that? Tennessee sliding in there after losing. Not falling out after losing, to Vandy. Utah, just hanging around in the rankings. It's interesting. So, I think it's set up for Clemson to probably get in if they look good.
All right, let's go to the Big Ten Championship.
Yeah.
Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, 8 p.m. on Fox. A big slate of night games, by the way. You got to go two Dragons with your TVs here. Stream one maybe on the laptop, get another on the big screen.
I'm extremely excited for this game, by the way, which I can't say I don't think about most of the conference championship games.
I'm pretty pumped for this one as well, for obvious reasons, but Big Ten Championship, 8 p.m. on Fox. We've got Wisconsin, a 2.5-point favorite over the Penn State Nittany Lions. I'm going to ask you a simple question. Which team do you feel more confident in at the current moment?
Probably Penn State, and it's slight, and it's Penn State because of quarterback play. That is a tie to me when both defenses have been playing at a really high level, which I think is fair to say. With Penn State being able to win a game against a really good team in an ugly fashion, they can win even when they don't look great. The fact that Saquon Barkley's not injured, and also Wisconsin's offense is worrisome, and I'm not worried. I'm not worried about anything Penn State as much as I am worried about Wisconsin's offense. So to me, the quarterback factor, the fact that Saquon Barkley is healthy, the fact that both of these teams have sort of started slow recently, but have both gotten things going, that tends to favor a team who can generate bigger plays, which is what Penn State is all about right now. I'm going to roll with the Nittany Lions.
That's it. Penn State's ripped off 8 in a row. Wisconsin's won 6 in a row, but the big difference between these two teams is on offense, and it is big plays on offense, explosiveness. You're going to hear a lot about this dichotomy like 1,000 times before Saturday night. Here are the numbers. Bill Connolly says that Penn State's the 10th most explosive offense in the country. If you zoom into the passing numbers, Penn State is the 4th most explosive. Wisconsin is 96th.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, where the rubber meets the road in this game. Trace Mox Sorley, as he's known on the show, he's averaging about 16 yards per completion, which is best in the nation. And on the Wisconsin side, it's just a muddled quarterback situation. Alex Hornibrook is questionable. He took a knock on the head last week. Bart Houston, regardless of who comes in, I can't say that either one of those guys makes me feel the warm fuzzies.
You know who should give you the warm fuzzies? Mostly because everything related to him is probably warm. Paul Chryst. It's the coaching job that they've done, that they haven't been explosive. They haven't been particularly efficient, but they're well coached enough. They don't make a ton of mistakes, and the plays that they do run, they take advantage of their opportunities. And that's sort of a silver lining look at the Wisconsin offense that has been pretty underwhelming. But in big spots, they've come up big, and they find a way to finish things out. They manage games, and this is not
you're right.
pejorative. They seem to manage games pretty well.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. On paper, this one's dead even to me.
Yeah.
Dead even. I am looking in particular to see if Penn State can get any kind of edge rush going on offense. I think that's key. The real teeth of this defense for Wisconsin is at inside linebacker. Yeah. And if you're Joe Moorhead, if you can get a ground game going without running at TJ Edwards, I think that behooves you. If they're able to do that, Saquon's really fast to the edge. Offensive player of the year in the Big Ten. He's quick to the edge, but he needs some help up front. And certainly running against his defense is no picnic. It's not like it's going to be easy to do, but if you can establish an edge rush, I think that's important. I got to go with Penn State. I'm a grad. They got all the momentum in the world right now. I think they win this one outright. I'm going to say Penn State wins 23-17.
Yeah, that sounds pretty appropriate. I have it as 24-20. So I'm going Penn State here to win. I don't think either team gets to 30 points. Just watch it be a shootout. But a fun little fact that I discovered in doing some research is if I were to describe a Big Ten coach as big guy associated with dairy, always at or near, or has recently been at or near the top of the conference and has an overall record of 20-5. You'd be like, that's Jim Harbaugh. It's Paul Chryst. They have the literal exact same record in their time in the Big Ten, and I associate Paul Chryst with dairy because obviously Wisconsin. But he has done a tremendous job, all things considered. You know, to win and be in this position without even above average quarterback play is damn impressive.
And then we saved this one for last. We didn't want to spoil the show for you if you decide to listen on Saturday morning.
Right.
This one is actually up first on Friday night. It's a huge pivot point for what happens elsewhere in the playoff landscape. If Washington wins the Pac-12 championship, by the way, favored by 7.5 over Colorado, Friday, 9 p.m. on Fox, Levi Stadium, Santa Clara. If they win this game, they're going to be in the college football playoff. If they don't win, Dan, then it sets off a chain reaction. Then all of a sudden we're talking about a Big Ten team, another Big Ten team getting in, the Big 12 maybe trying to argue for one of its teams, Colorado maybe trying to argue on its behalf too. Things get muddled if Washington loses, but if they win, they are in. You are our Pac-12 aficionado on this program.
Yeah.
Where is your heart? Where is your head here?
My head is I'm curious about what Colorado has been able to do defensively early on in games, because the calling card of Washington has been to jump all over teams. We saw it last week against Wazoo. We saw it, frankly, all season long, other than a couple of games where they were a little bit slower. Colorado actually is a team that they start out pretty well defensively, but they get going later on in games, which I think it's fair to point to depth a little bit, that they're able to weather a number of storms. They're better, I believe, against the pass, like second and fourth quarter, which tells me they're pretty good at adjusting on the fly. So I anticipate a really good chess match between Chris Peterson, both Mike McIntyre, and Jim Leavitt, the defensive coordinator for Colorado. Colorado's not particularly on offense all that explosive. Washington is, especially with Levon Coleman and Myles Gaskin. They've got three good receivers. Jake Browning is certainly one of the best throwing quarterbacks in the nation. In a game with what I think will be very good defense from both sides, I think ultimately the difference is going to be Washington's ability to run the ball and Washington's ability to score early and weather maybe a couple of big Colorado plays, but not all that much downfield. So I think Washington covers here. I think they're going to be a little bit more prepared, and they have more ways that they can win. 30-20 Huskies.
Yeah. So again, I think we're in near agreement here. I've got 31-21.
Nice.
We've never agreed this much, but I think you're right. I think what's interesting here is that both teams kind of have a template for how to win. Washington wants to hold down the Colorado running game the same way Michigan did it.
Yeah.
Back in mid-September. Colorado, they want to limit Myles Gaskin the same way that USC did. They want to make Washington unbalanced. Personally, I'm with you. I think this matchup favors Washington. To me, they are a permutation of Michigan.
Wait, Washington?
Washington.
With an excellent throwing quarterback?
A permutation.
Okay.
Not a facsimile, but
I would say it's a mutation. Yeah.
There are some similarities here. I remember when Colorado went up on Michigan early, and then Michigan stormed back in the final three quarters. They won by like 17. It's worth noting, though, that Colorado's a different team now.
Yeah.
This is not the same team that went up against
they also
him.
lost Saif Alufau when it was close against Michigan.
They lost him, sure.
Yeah.
But what we've seen from him at the quarterback position, second half of their season, he's getting at least 17 carries a game since the end of October. They're letting him do more with his legs. That's not enough difference for me to feel great about their chances here. I think Washington's just a better team. I like them by 10. But for what it's worth, this is like the ultimate heads I win, tails you lose situation.
Yeah.
Because I'd love nothing more than to see the fairy tale continue Colorado's not overrated, but Washington's just better.
Yeah, something that if you look at, and you mentioned with Deshaun Watson as for unleashing him and letting him run a little bit more, Seifa Lufau can run the ball really well. He's been beat up his entire career at Colorado. But I'm curious to see how much Colorado shows in the way of designed runs or how much he scrambles knowing he might take a big lick or two. The worst game that I would say Washington had defensively was probably the Arizona game, in which Brandon Dawkins ran pretty crazy, and he is a better running quarterback than Seifa Lufau is, because that's basically all he can do. I'm curious to see how Washington is able to limit him on the ground, because that presents a challenge. You know, Sam Darnold was pretty good against them. Troy Williams has that threat. The games that they were closer or lost, I think that might be a consistent line.
A fun little stat that I dug up when I was researching this game. All due credit to Mike McIntyre for the job he's done at Colorado. It's been incredible. He might be National Coach of the Year. But one of the things I know we looked at in preseason, a lot of the articles that were written, the interviews that were published, he talked about wanting to play with more tempo.
Right.
And if you go back and look in terms of pace of play, Colorado is actually the second fastest team that Washington will play all year. Cal was the fastest. Colorado is just a little bit behind Cal. Again, it's a testament to having a plan, executing that plan. Colorado, compared to last season, is incrementally better than they were in terms of tempo. So I don't know what kind of effect tempo has on a game like this. Obviously, if Colorado can be successful, it could have a big impact. I don't necessarily expect that, but again, just a testament, a fun little anecdote here to the job that Mike McIntyre's done this season.
Yeah, it cannot be overstated. He is it's an unbelievable job and journey that Colorado has been on. And if you haven't checked out Bill Connolly and what he wrote about Colorado a couple days ago, really interesting stuff of when a team is so beat up, how much depth that hopefully brings for the future. That so many backups who are not necessarily ready to shine and play huge minutes and get huge time are able to come in. All of a sudden, you have this deep, experienced, upperclassman-laden team, which is what Colorado is right now. And it totally, unintentionally paid off for Colorado.
We are going to rip through a few other games here very quickly. But we do have more bills to pay.
I expect, by the way, when you go into these, sometimes to be like, look, we all love sex toys. And just to be like, so let me break it down for you. And then just to go into like, are you a hand crank guy?
Okay.
Are you battery opt?
We could do the drum and fife later if you want to use this.
No, I just
use this there.
I want to be shocked and a little bit titillated out of nowhere.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to work some. I had a full day of work, dog.
Okay. Same.
I had a full day of work here. My brain power is pretty much fried. But next time, I promise, on Sunday. Okay. On Sunday, I'll do that for you. In the meantime, though, it's holiday season.
It is.
Holiday season. You got any Christmas parties coming up, Dan?
Holiday parties, you mean, Ty?
Holiday parties.
Yes. I have the company holiday party in a couple weeks. I think it's 2 weeks from yesterday. Very excited for it.
You want to make sure that if you're a guy and you're shaving, that you get that nice closeness, that when you're shaving, you get a comfortable glide, that you go in there clean as a whistle, dressed to impress. If that's what you're trying to do. I don't know.
Sure.
If you are, Harry's, I think, is something you should check out. We've used Harry's in the program before. I'm still a Harry's user. I've given it to my father-in-law. I've given it to a bunch of people that I know. I've recommended Harry's. It is high-quality shaving at a super reasonable price. That's what you need to know. If you haven't heard of them before, they were started by two best friends. They were fed up with, overcharging for razors. You know how expensive they can be. Mm-hmm. They started their own company to give people what they deserve, what they feel is a great shave at a fair price. This holiday, they're offering a limited edition shaving set. Here's what's in it. A midnight blue chrome razor handle, which you can get engraved with initials. Plus 3 of their German-engineered 5-blade cartridges that provide a close, comfortable shave. They're also going to give you foaming gel that smells amazing. I can attest to this because they sent me one. A cool gift box, and it goes for about $30 on Harry's. Nice. Not bad, right? They also offer handles and sets starting at just $10 if you haven't tried Harry's for your for yourself. Free shipping on all this stuff ends on December 9th. So you want to act now. You go to harrys.com, get a limited edition holiday shave set while supplies last. Enter the code SOLID, SOLID at checkout. You get $5 off.
Can I ask you something, Ty? As it relates to this?
Yeah.
You mentioned the holiday party thing, dressing to impress. Big night out. Everybody at work is looking, dressed to the nines, whatever.
Sure.
You're somebody who has recruited and got a commitment from a coworker.
This is very true, yeah.
So do you have any specific tips to anybody listening, male, female, whatever, that perhaps has some recruiting interest in somebody else in their office, and they want to look good, they obviously want to shave well. I'm sure Harry's works really well wherever you want to groom. Do you have any tips for doing broaching that line between friendly and I don't want to be creepy, but if you ever want to hang out line?
Okay, so other than Harry's, which, by the way, again, harrys.com, promo code SOLID, $5 off your order. Other than the obvious, I would suggest finding a mutual friend and getting that mutual friend drunk.
Okay.
Use the friend as the icebreaker.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be the creepy guy, use the friend as the icebreaker, because most of the time friends are willing, especially if you get a little booze in them. That'll do the trick. That was an effective tactic for me. It was not quite as well thought out, but mutual friend was who brought us together ultimately. And after he had some drinks in him, it did help.
Like sort of like hey, you guys are both single,
something like that. Yeah, something like that.
So I work at a company. And I'm not going to spill any company secrets. That's not what I'm about.
Right.
But I work at a company where everybody sits. It's a lot of younger people because it's an internet company. And everybody sort of sits with their headphones on, their laptops in front of them. Some people have the standing desk thing, whatever. And it's a generally pretty quiet environment. Everybody's just sort of locked into the internet. And I've been to now 3 of our holiday parties, I think. I missed last year. And the general vibe at our holiday party is, there's booze everywhere. Everybody really likes each other, I think, on a certain level. But nobody really knows each other that well because it's just not that social a place because everybody's locked in digitally. And then at the Christmas party, everybody's, oh, yeah, I was wondering what you did. Oh, cool. Oh, man, where you're from? Oh, cool. And then you come away thinking like, oh, I really like that person. But some people come away with, I really like that person. So I'm just telling people out there that if you work at a similar company, give yourself every advantage. Look good, smell good, dress well, get a haircut, make sure those sideburns are nice and crisp, whatever, because it's been my experience, both good and bad. It's a good time if you have any interest.
It is. The whole mistletoe thing plays tricks on people.
Yeah, absolutely. So let Harry's be your guide.
All right. Other championship games of
what do
note.
we got?
We've got a MAC championship game. Starring one PJ Fleck. They are up against the Ohio Bobcats. They're playing it at Ford Field, which is a cool venue for this game. They are an 18.5-point favorite over Ohio. I think this game means a lot to them because they are playing for a New Year's Six bowl. So I'm going to go Western Michigan minus anything here. I think they run it up if they can.
Yep, as do I. Yeah, I have Western by 3 touchdowns at least, 24 points. I think they take this because, listen, as somebody who was looking for some oars for his own team to help with the boat rowing, I'm just rooting for momentum. So yeah, I think Western wins big.
Is there a boating situation out in Eugene?
Sure, there's the Willamette River. Yeah.
Was that not the finishing point in Oregon Trail?
It almost assured. Yeah, I mean, there's the Columbia River up near Portland on the Oregon-Washington border, but the Willamette one is a big one in the state, yeah.
The American Championship. Temple at Navy. Navy a 3-point favorite. They're at home in Memorial Stadium. Per Brett McMurphy, an interesting tidbit.
Yeah.
There are bowl officials rooting against Navy, mainly because the chain of events that would ensue if they won would be a bit complicated. Because basically, if they win now, they're in the hunt, at least for one of those group of 5 bowl berths in a major bowl game. Because they play Army next week, the whole bowl process would go into a holding pattern for an extra week. And the bowls that are set to begin on December 17th as Mr. McMurphy points out, there are just a litany of issues that will be involved with a quicker turnaround time, for some of those early bowl games, to be sure. To that end, I think we're all rooting for a little bit for Navy to make things a little more interesting. But I'm a PA guy, and I'm a Matt Rule guy, so I got to go Temple here plus the points, even though I think Navy is just an absolute freight train right now, scoring like 130 points in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, this is always tricky because I am the worst at figuring out games with triple option teams and who has defenses disciplined enough to stop them for 4 quarters and who does not. I don't think Temple has played Navy in a couple of years. They lost it early in 2014. They played Houston, which is definitely not an option team, in the championship game last year, I believe, and lost. I think I'm going to roll with Navy. I think it's tough with the momentum with which they're playing to sort of turn around and beat them. Temple has been really good. Temple, they're the team that has beaten USF, I believe, right?
Yeah.
This season?
Yep.
So Temple, even though you wrote them off in mid-September, I believe, before that Penn State game, the Temple was done. Since that game, Temple has won, 7 of 8?
Yeah, they've been good. They've been real good.
8 of 9. Only loss was to a pretty good Memphis team, but that's UCF who's turned things around. USF, it's kind of a garbage Cincinnati team, but I think their defense has been lights out recently. So I think it's close, but I think I'm going to go with the momentum of Navy, and a short preparation is never a good thing ahead of the midshipmen. So yeah, I'm rolling with Navy. 2
other championship games very quickly. We've got the Conference USA Championship between Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky. Western is a 9.5 point favorite here, Dan. We've also got the Mountain West Championship between San Diego State and one Donnell Pumphrey and your boy Craig Bowl up there at Wyoming.
Yeah.
San Diego State is a 7-point favorite.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to take the points with La Tech and WKU just because both teams have huge offense, and I'm just going to take the points in a shootout. So I'm going to go with Western to win by 4. Let's call it 48-44. San Diego State, I'm going to roll with Donnell Pumphrey. It has not been a kind November for Wyoming. My guys, even with the, I think it was Halloween weekend in which they beat Boise State. I'm going with San Diego State here to win by 10. It was not a good week for them last week, but let's go 34-24 Aztecs.
I'll go Western minus the points, and I'll go Wyoming plus the points.
Wow. Okay.
And then very finally, we've got 2 other games in the Big 12 that we don't want to leave out. We've got a nooner here between K-State and TCU. TCU is a 4.5 point, home favorite. Mm-hmm. As we were kindly reminded by a loyal listener by the name of Ethan, we did not mention this, but Bill Snyder won his 200th game last week.
Hey-o.
Over Kansas. He's one of just 26 coaches.
Emaw.
To do that, one of just 5 coaches to do it at one school. I say we go for 201 here with Grandpa Bill. I will go K-State plus the points here against TCU.
I'm going to go K-State plus the points as well. They've been playing well of late, even without a particularly good defense. I don't think TCU has the consistent offense to take advantage. I'm going to roll with Kansas State, just slowly mashing down on TCU.
And then at 3:30, if you hate your life, Baylor at West Virginia. West Virginia, a 17-point favorite here.
Yeah.
This line is so high because Baylor is really just trying to get it over with. I think that's where we're at. Win or lose, though, interestingly enough, they've said that they're going to a bowl game. If they lose here, they'd be 6-6. They'd still qualify for a bowl, which would be really interesting come bowl season because we do the confidence pool. I could make every case in the world for Baylor being your 1-point team or your 1-point game, and I could make every case in the world for Baylor's opponent being your 45-point team.
Right.
So we'll see. I'm going to go West Virginia here minus the points.
West Virginia minus anything. 45-17.
45-17. Okay, we got one other additional request, if you could.
I have a request too, so maybe 2 requests.
We did get a nice email here from Joe.
Okay.
And he talked about...
Is he another Michigan fan who doesn't like me?
He was not a Michigan fan. By the way, Michigan fans are going to dox Kirby Hokot if he does not put them in the playoff some way, shape, or form. No, I'm talking about Joe. I'm talking about his lovely girlfriend, Maggie.
Oh, I don't even think I saw this, but I'd love to. I love.
It wasn't overtly a request, but they do like
Okay.
it when you drop something.
Ty, will you do me a favor? And for the last time this season, with the Mountain Hawks engineers out of it, will you drop that big, wriggling, taut? I don't know where. I love that taut thing. It could be associated with so many supple, pert, dripping, moist drum and fife.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
What do I do now?
I don't know. I have a hypothetical, though. That's what I was saving. I don't know if we have enough time.
We have enough time.
Okay, Ty.
Yeah.
This came up in the office.
Okay.
And I think it says a lot about people. It's completely random. Would you rather live for a month in the Mall of America or the Bellagio with no access to the outside world? So you're locked in there and no phone, no internet, no TV.
Okay.
So would you rather, with the amenities available to you in the Mall of America, so a ton of stores,
Right.
Maybe there's a gym, there's a Best Buy, you can watch movies, like you can go to a Best Buy and plop in a bunch of DVDs
Sure.
and just hang out there. You can entertain yourself in any way that you can in any of these places. And also both of these places are fully stocked with food. So whatever food the Bellagio kitchen would normally stock, which I would imagine is pretty expansive.
Am I
in any
am I-
restaurant.
Am I in there by myself or
You're in both of these places completely I Am Legend, but without the zombies, alone.
Okay. Wow.
So-
I gotta go Mall of America.
Why are you going Mall of America?
If you've been to a casino, even when they're dead, they still have those slot machine sounds that ding 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 ding. You know, they're constantly going, even if no one's playing them.
Yep.
That would drive me nuts.
So the big advantage of the Bellagio is you can stay in a beautiful penthouse suite.
Right.
Whereas Mall of America, you're probably sleeping on a bed at like Macy's.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know. That's way creepier. You'd have a pool at the Bellagio. I guess there's an amusement park at the Mall of America that I don't know if you'd be able to operate alone. I think there's a bigger creep factor at the Mall of America. Like it's so big that you don't know what's going on anywhere. You just react to every single sound. Bellagio, you have the comfort, you have a pool, you have a great kitchen, and I think there's just more opportunity for luxury.
Yeah, but you've got the faint smell of smoke. You've got the potential now for that cataclysmic sound of the dings, from the slot machines. Yeah. I don't want that. I don't want to risk that. Mall of America also gives you a little bit more variety. And variety is the
Plenty of
spice of
variety.
life. You can go around for a while. How long am I staying there? 1 month?
A month.
Yeah.
Read a bunch of books.
Read books, explore all the different stores. For 1 month, I could survive in the Mall of America. I would probably wear thin after like 3 days in the Bellagio.
So
No other people.
I don't know. Would you assume that there's a place to shower in the Mall of America?
I mean, you could cobble something together, right?
If there's a gym, maybe. I don't know.
There's at least got to be a hose.
Well, there's definitely probably. I would assume there's a fountain somewhere.
I mean, you could make do with it for a month.
Yeah.
How long was Tom Hanks stranded on that island?
He in the ocean. Tom.
All he had was a volleyball, Dan.
I think Mall of America's right.
Yeah.
I think it is because you could have a lot of fun. You could take a golf club to a bunch of weirds. You could be destructive if you were in a destructive mood. You could do a lot of exploring and you could keep your mind right. I think you go pretty crazy in the Bellagio, but the comfort thing is big for me. You can just hang out by the pool. I'm sure there's reading material all over the Bellagio.
Yeah.
One of the guys in the office asked if you would have access to the vault at the Bellagio.
Ooh.
To like take a bunch of money. The answer is you can try.
Right.
You can try driving a car into it or something if there's a car on premises.
Right.
But I hate malls so much that I have a weird visceral reaction, but I also hate casinos.
The entire entertainment quality of being in the Bellagio is geared around playing the games, in my opinion. I mean, there's a whole people watching component to it, and there's a lot of cool stuff and architecture and whatnot to look at. But the main attraction is really the casino games. And if there's no one else there to play the games with, what's the point?
You get a bunch of work done in either place. You could write a book or
I'm not
something.
going to do work.
No, I'm not work.
Who
but
are
could
you?
Write you could write your manifesto.
I could. That's true.
I do like a good luxurious moment.
All right. Well, email us, solidverbal@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Send us tweets and let us know what you think here. Mall of America or Bellagio all by yourself for 1 month.
Yeah.
Any big plans for the weekend?
I don't think so. It's the last weekend of watching.
Are you a little excited about that? A little excited about that?
The lady friend is very excited. The solid fiance is quite excited. Not necessarily because she likes everybody that comes over. It's more the stress on my time.
I'm with you.
Because listen, who wouldn't want to hang out with me all day? I don't know what we're gonna do for food. It's a good question. I don't know how the weather's gonna be. I'd like to make something. That's always more fun when you sort of potluck it, but we'll see. I'm excited. And Sunday we're doing a live show with the teams coming out at SB Nation, which I think everybody should watch. Myself and Ryan Nanny for Wake Up College Football. So that'll be early afternoon Eastern time. So I'll do that before we record.
Cool.
Because it would be kind of ridiculous to record before the playoff rankings came out.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I have some thank yous, by the way. Tim Gerber Fleury, which is a great name. David Newman, Ben, a.k.a. God Sport, Buckeye fan Frank, and his 9-year-old reverbing daughter. She left a reverb. It was pretty great. Tyler Anderson, Michael Settle, Heather Dinich, just because we love Heather Dinich. Ed McGrogan, Richard Turkowicz, who is Vienna's one true college football fan, Jack Waycamp, and of course, Ty We Ride.
We ride. We ride. We ride.
Brandon McKissick.
Hello, Brandon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have at long last made it.
Yes.
It feels like we sort of stepped into a time warp. Somehow it's about to be December. We are at conference championship week. It's been a great season of college football. The season will continue after this week, but certainly we will have clarity and our weeks-long journey will be somewhat closer to completion. So give us a holler at 408-VERBAL-1. Let us know what's on your mind. Don't forget we are on Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram and, of course, on iTunes, on itunes.com/solidverbal. For that guy over there, my good friend, my colleague, my co-host of many years, Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrandt. Thank you again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. And by all means, stay solid.
Peace.